Globalization is much like fire. It is neither good nor bad. Used properly, fire can cook food, sterilize equipment, form iron, heat our homes. Used carelessly, it can destroy lives, cities, and forests. Similarly, globalization can be incredibly empowering and incredibly coercive. It can democratize opportunity and simultaneously democratize panic. When globalization appears overwhelming, whales become bigger, minnows become stronger, and it feels as if it leaves you behind faster and faster, while at the same time catching up to you faster and faster. While globalization has its dangers and dark side, it also brings tremendous opportunities and benefits. It is homogenizing the world's cultures and simultaneously enabling people to share their unique individuality farther and wider. Globalization has both cheerleaders who are blind to the destruction it can cause and strident opponents who are blind to the way it is giving people their first real opportunity to fulfill their basic aspirations. Fortunately, the majority of people are in the middle. They see globalization not as something to worship or demonize. Rather, they see it as something to mold, to shape, and manage for the betterment of everyone. This is good. But even these people would be wise to remember that just as capitalism requires a network of governing systems to keep it from devouring societies, globalization requires vigilance, the rule of law, and ethical practices. First, there is little doubt that globalization is an inexorable integration of markets, nation-states, and technologies never witnessed before. It is enabling individuals, corporations, and governments to reach around the world farther, faster, deeper, and cheaper than ever before. At the same time, globalization is forcing organizations and individuals to compete in a more intense environment, and this foments a contentious atmosphere. Even the term globalization has served to crystallize disagreements about the direction of change in the world at large, and the debate of its meaning and merits is often blended with political conflict. Many fear that the world is becoming a single place, where global practices, values, and technologies shape people's lives towards a global age, spelling the end of the nation-state. They believe a new world order is emerging, and not a good one. Some dissidents fear it is a deliberate ideological effort of Western states to dominate emerging societies. Others believe that there is nothing new under the sun, and that globalization is age-old capitalism writ large across the globe. Still others say that the world is actually fragmenting into blocks. Fortunately, there is an alternative view, that globalization is rooted in an expanding consciousness of living together on one planet, a consciousness that takes the form of global interaction and institutional development that will constrain even powerful players and relate any particular place to a larger global whole. This thinking presumes that a new heterogeneity will result, because cultural interaction is likely to lead to new mixtures of cultures, and integration is likely to provoke new global norms and practices interpreted from local tradition. In such an environment, no one country or culture would have a leading grasp on the world, nor expect passive acceptance of whatever it has to sell. While some people think of globalization as primarily a synonym for global business, it is actually much more than that. The same forces that allow businesses to operate as if national borders did not exist also allow social activists, labor organizers, journalists, academics, and many others to work on the global stage. The truth is that people around the globe today are more connected to each other than ever before. Information and money flow more quickly than ever. Goods and services produced in one part of the world are increasingly available in all parts of the world. International travel is more frequent, and international communication is commonplace. This is what we call globalization. Just as the Depression, the Cold War era, the space age, and the Roaring '20s are used to describe particular periods of history, globalization describes the political, economic, and cultural atmosphere of today. And we cannot ignore the part of this atmosphere is that religious militancy and unreasoned aggressive competition for vital finite resources produces tension and occasional hostility that can interfere with global commerce and cooperation. Our organizations and we face significant challenges because despite such a world, we must keep moving forward by managing through the social turmoil that swirl around us. This requires great resolve and dexterity, a willingness to take strategic risk, and an understanding of the principles driving the new global economy. The sheer unpredictability of what waits ahead demands that we maintain major strategic commitments to the future of our organizations and that we build our organization's confidence on a bedrock of knowledge and certitude about our organization's capabilities and limitations, our market opportunities, products, and work processes. When I work with organizations to help them focus on their strategic mission and plans, I use the acronym TEAM. Teach, enforce, advocate, and model. It is a four-step model to encourage organizations to integrate core values into everyday decision-making. The problem in many organizations is not a failure to identify and talk about goals, objectives, and organizational values, but a failure to consistently model and enforce them. Despite lofty rhetoric to the contrary, the culture of many private and public institutions reflects a "don't rock the boat, let's avoid confrontation at any cost" attitude that undermines an organization's long-term institutional integrity and morale. Thus, managers from top to bottom tend to find an endless array of excuses to avoid tough decisions and circumstances. Due to fear of failure and discomfort with confrontation, too often high-visibility employees flourish despite having failed to meet their commitments. In the face of world competition and tensions, good organizations need good people, people of principle with the courage to do what it needs to be done in an honorable manner, even in the face of possible failure or unpopularity. So it's important to remember two basic rules of management. One, whatever you allow, you encourage. Two, whatever employees will do for you, they will do to you. Former Air Force General William Cohen wrote a fine book called The Stuff of Heroes, in which he identifies 8 laws of leadership. First, maintain absolute integrity. Second, know your stuff. Third, declare your expectations. Fourth, show uncommon commitment. Fifth, expect positive results. Sixth, take care of your people. Seventh, put duty before self. And finally, eighth, get out in front. Cohen's laws embrace important competencies like knowledge, communication skills, commitment, optimism, caring, and a powerful sense of duty that are vital for success in today's global economy. The foundation is character, a personal commitment to trustworthiness, honor, and courage. The best leaders of today's global organizations draw on these qualities to influence others, regardless of cultural background, through inspiration, persuasion, trust, and loyalty. They do the right thing, despite the costs and risks. In these cynical times, it's easy to think that such leadership is unattainable, yet in every successful global organization, hundreds of men and women fit this mold. Now, some may be inclined to dismiss the notion of sound character as a little too blue sky for facing off the challenges and risks of globalization. But hear me out before you reject the idea. In the 1970s, someone realized that one of the best ways to avoid insurance payouts was to reduce the likelihood of fire losses. So insurance companies hired experts to advise their clients on how to make their premises more safe. Companies that took the advice were rewarded with lower premium rates. The concept of reducing costs and injuries by identifying and reducing risk factors was so fundamentally logical that expanded to all forms of insurance. Soon, everyone who wanted to avoid harmful events and save money realized the power of an effective risk reduction program, and the field of risk management was created. Today, most large organizations have departments concerned with assessing risk situations and developing policies and procedures to avoid occurrences that could result in a direct loss or lawsuit. One of the most potent risk management strategies is to treat good character as an essential part of job competence, especially for key decision makers. Thus, human resource policies that screen employees for character flaws is important to reduce the risk of budget-breaking, reputation-damaging, energy-diverting errors. Good character is simply ethics in action, and concern for the ethical values of employees is growing in both public and private sector organizations in the new global economy. Responsible leaders are focusing on building their organization's culture to nurture and promote integrity, accountability, and respect. When I consult with organizations, I always advocate the importance of personal character. When I do, I get thoughtful nods. But when I talk about the impact of personal ethics as a risk management strategy, interest intensifies and people take notes. A sound ethical culture is much more than codes and classes on ethics. Certainly, clear standards of conduct can clarify expectations and provide a useful basis for organizational discipline. And training courses can raise consciousness, teach legal requirements, and encourage employees to do the right thing. But unless ethical values that support the organization's mission and goals are pervasively advocated and enforced in everyday decision-making, the risk of damaging behavior will remain high. Sound ethical risk governance is present only in organizations with high integrity and commitment to identifying their potential vulnerabilities, like security threats, outdated business operations and practices, outdated computer and network technologies, outdated regulations and standards, and a blinded view of competition, markets, and opportunities. In organizations, you get what you reward. Formal and informal incentive systems that promote honesty, moral courage, responsibility, and fairness will always trump their opposites. Deceit, personal cowardice, and irresponsibility are high-risk behaviors, not simply because they can end or endanger the career of those who take shortcuts, but because they cause serious harm to the organization, which may not be able to recover in our fast-paced world. Organizations today must plan to protect their assets, information, and people. This is best done by identifying the best security and quality practices of their industry, based on sound intelligence gathering. The objective is to focus the organization on which real-world threats have the potential to impact your business and how you can best mitigate against such risks. What then is the best source of such intelligence? It is benchmarking. Benchmarking is normally defined as a system of continuous improvements derived from systemic comparisons with the world's best practices. As protectionist walls have been breached all over the world, benchmarking has been given added impetus by the increase in global competition. In today's economy, no organization can corner the market on good ideas. To compete, we all must expand our learning from the experiences of others, to learn from others how to help produce dramatic improvements in our own processes and practices. Total quality management is the integration of an organization's activities that influence its achievement of quality demands. It is all-embracing, covering customer perceptions, reliability, value, etc. In this context, there is no demarcation between quality and reliability. If we think of the industries and products that set the world standards for quality and reliability, among the ones that are most likely to come to mind, it is the products that exist in the most competitive international markets. The markets where the customer has a wide choice and where innovation, improvement, and performance versus price are all essential for the survival of the organization's suppliers. To compete in these kinds of economic venues, an organization's management must remember the core principle of total quality. People at work are not like machines. Unlike machines, people want to make contributions to how their work is planned and performed, and they want to do their jobs well. Their motivation and effectiveness are ultimately determined by the way they are managed, and their leaders must remember that there is no limit to the quality of work that people as individuals and in teams can produce, which is what makes continuous improvement a realistic objective. But quality processes can only succeed when people are striving toward necessary, achievable targets that have been established based on world-class intelligence. To become world-class, it is not necessary to be a big organization, but it is necessary to benchmark yourself with what the big players in your key business sectors do, and to use what you learn wisely. Benchmarking is the measure through which all social institutions, including the state, can discover whether or not they are world-class and what they need to do to become so. The benchmarking process lets organizations ferret out the root causes of the operating differences between themselves and their benchmarking partners, and then by adopting and adapting the exemplary practices used by others, they can accelerate their own progress. When competition can come from anywhere in the world, it is necessary for companies who wish to hold on to their market share, let alone increase it, to measure their performances against the very best in the world. The total quality movement ensured that all aspects of company performance, from manufacturing widgets to answering telephones, from delivering and servicing the product to monitoring energy use in factories and offices, could be documented and measured. This lets an organization do self-assessment and provides the template to translate international practices that work in another context into a process appropriate to your own organization. It is the essence of creativity and the pursuit of innovation and value. And the search for world best practices is not limited to for-profit organizations alone. Nonprofit and public organizations are also a vital source of learning. Finally, organizations can better prepare for their industry's uncertainties by increasing their strategic focus and embracing innovation. Whether raising capital, assessing new technologies, or managing risks, innovation is the key to weathering globalization's opportunities and market uncertainties and reaching out for global success.